Meet him in person from 5 to 7 at the Tiger Club room of the Pyramid later today.
That's correct. As a matter of fact, Calipari's family is entering the media room right now. They're way over to my right, so and some of the Tiger athletic officials are also coming down in here to the media room. This place is exciting, and I suspect that when Calipari and R.C. Johnson enter the room, we're going to hear a round of applause, and it'll be a loud round of applause, perhaps louder than any we heard during the St. Louis game today against DePaul.
Yeah, I think we'll know when he steps in. Now, you're speaking, of course, of Ellen Calipari, and they have 3 children. They came in with him. What did Calipari do when he arrived this morning in Memphis?
Well, he didn't arrive this morning. It was only, as I said, about an hour and a half or two ago, and R.C. Johnson took them to the place that they're going to be calling home for a while. Again, it's temporary housing that the university has found for them, and frankly, I don't know yet where precisely that is. But I know they've seen that, and then they just sort of snuck in here and into the Tiger dressing room where he had the meeting with the 3 players and also with Kelly Wise's mother. And Marcus Moody said that the meeting went extremely well, that they found Calipari to be extremely enthusiastic. And I think these players, as upset and perhaps down as they were over Johnny Jones's departure, they're getting excited again. Players are extremely resilient, as you know, and they'll bounce back quick, and they'll be ready to play pretty soon.
George, as you talk about Calipari coming in and getting the job and not anyone creating a buzz like this before, what exactly does it mean to the program and also the city for Memphis to land someone the stature of a John Calipari? And it's not to make him up to be larger than life by any means, but certainly this is a marquee name that this program, I think fans would say, finally gets.
Well, it's funny that you asked what it means to the city. About an hour and a half ago, I had a rather lengthy discussion with Lane Rollins, the outgoing University of Memphis president, and he said this hiring is very, very important for the city. That he said he wished that he could do a hire in academics that would create this kind of excitement, but it just doesn't work that way, and he knows that, and frankly, I think we all know that, and Dr. Rollins said that he thinks that this hiring will be extremely good, not just for the university's basketball program, but for just the excitement level and the city feeling good about itself. You know, there were a lot of people, Glenn, and there were some columnists in other cities who thought it was just asinine for the University of Memphis to even try to hire someone of John Calipari's stature. As a matter of fact, Joe Biddle of the Nashville Tennessean wrote a column to that effect saying that there was no way that the university would be able to pull off hiring Calipari. So I think you got to tip your hat to the folks at the university who did pull this off.
Well, I was going to say, and obviously the name that jumps out there is athletic director R.C. Johnson, who took hits over the way the Larry Finch dismissal was handled. Then hiring Tick Price, who stepped down before this season started, and of course having to sort of walk on eggshells a little bit with the Johnny Jones situation. How does R.C. Johnson feel right now? Have you had a chance to talk to him?
Well, relieved. I talked to him on his cell phone as he was going to pick up Calipari and bring him down here to the Pyramid, and he sounded relieved. I will tell you right now, he's felt enormous pressure for the last 6 to 8 weeks. R.C. pretty much negotiated this contract by himself with Calipari. So if you like what's been happening, then I think you have to tip your hat also then, especially to R.C. Johnson. We're waiting again on the arrival. That's Bob Wynn up there at the podium, the University of Memphis Sports Information Director, and they are still in the locker room, Calipari is, but they're going to walk into here any second now. They're about a minute late, and they assured us that they would be on time. Again, Calipari's family is here. Rip Shearer, the Tiger football coach, is here, and there are plenty of fans. We'll show you again all the fans that have lined up over here in the catacombs of the Pyramid to witness this thing, and I guarantee you they're going to be excited. I think anyone who's been around Tiger basketball, and Glenn, I've seen practically every home game since the early 1950s when they were playing at the Field House when Eugene Lambert was coaching. I even remember when McCoy Terry was coaching before they even thought about going major college in basketball. And I think there's as much excitement generated over this as any time except for the Final Four appearances, and especially the national championship game against UCLA. There will be significant impact in this hiring because John Calipari is going to recruit. He'll be the first Memphis coach ever who will be able to recruit on a national level. He's going to bring some quality players. You can just take this to the bank in here from outside the Memphis area and outside the immediate area too. He'll go far and get some good players.
Yeah, he won't have trouble at all getting through any player's front door just simply on name recognition alone. We anticipate this news conference lasting quite a while because there will be several questions from the media. George, you know the Tiger basketball program, the history of it better than anyone. What would be one of the first 2 or 3 questions that you would ask Calipari?
Well, I think we'll find that out when we ask him, but Bob Wynn is now telling the fans here that the fans are not going to be allowed to ask any questions. That he's telling them this is a formal press conference and thanking the fans for coming down here and showing the support. But he said that only the media. But as far as what they're going to ask him is, I think the obvious question is, why did he pick Memphis? Because I guarantee you, Calipari could have had his choice of a whole bunch of jobs.
You mentioned Rip Shear was there as well. There's a tie-in between Shear and Calipari, isn't there?
Yeah, Rip's father was the athletic director at the high school right outside the Pittsburgh area where Calipari played basketball, and he said he used to have to run Calipari. Rip told me that his dad used to have to run Calipari out of the gym, that he was always in there playing basketball. He's a real student of the game. I've known Larry Brown, the Philadelphia 76ers coach. He and I have been really personal friends for a long, long time, going back to when we were in college. So I knew Larry before he was a basketball coach, and Larry tells me that the Memphis fans are just going to be crazy about John Calipari.
Yeah, coaches we talked to after the Conference USA final today between St. Louis and DePaul, I think they're excited about having Calipari in Conference USA because it also helps them and brings them recognition, but I don't think they want to face him in the recruiting wars and on the basketball court.
Well, Bill Frieder was doing the radio broadcast for CBS, and Bill is, of course, the ex-Michigan coach and ex-Arizona State coach, and is a real good friend with Calipari, and he just is amazed that the University of Memphis was able to pull off a hiring of this impact. And I also will tell you that the schools that the University of Memphis competes with in this area, I'm talking about the SEC schools, none of them are real excited about the University of Memphis hiring John Calipari.
Exactly. Now, Calipari does have a small history with the University of Memphis. They played in the 1995-96 season on the road up in the Northeast, and UMass won that game, but it was close, only won it by 3, and Memphis had a chance to tie it up at the buzzer. So he's familiar with the Memphis program somewhat, and also all the local talent that Memphis has been able to have over the years.
Yeah, and you know that despite all the criticism the pyramid brings or gets, as I was talking with Lane Rollins earlier today, a couple of hours ago, he said that when Calipari made his trip into Memphis and he walked in the pyramids, first time he'd ever seen a facility, and he said it about knocked him over. So we may criticize it some, and some fans may criticize it some, but as a basketball coach, when he walked in here, he was tremendously impressed, and I guarantee you if he was impressed, he is going to do a selling job on the pyramid and on the university. And Dr. Rollins also said that one thing that was very important to Calipari was to see the campus of the university. He'd always thought of it as an urban campus, and now it looks like a campus. Now they are entering the media room right now, and you can hear the crowd getting excited, and you can hear the applause because Calipari and R.C. Johnson and V. Lane Rollins, the University of Memphis president, are approaching the podium. And what we're going to do in just a minute is you can see them there on the podium and Calipari waving to the fans. You can see all of that happen. Glenn, you'd almost wish the band and the pom-pom girls were here. This will be Bob Wynn, the University Sports Information Director, who will speak first. We'll go to the podium.
We thank you very much for coming out. We know this was short notice. There was a lot of plans that had to be pulled together, but this is such a great occasion for this institution. We will have a formal press conference. We'll make some introductions. Coach Calipari will speak, and then for the members of the media, we will certainly have a question and answer period, and I will try to identify each of you, or if you will raise your hands, we will point to you for questions. At this time, we'll call on the Director of Athletics at our university, R.C. Johnson, for this wonderful introduction.
Thank you, Bob, and again, thank everybody for being here. Certainly we appreciate the President being here. It wouldn't have happened if he was not available. And to the many media, welcome. And again, as Bob said, I know it was short notice. We appreciate you all being here, and thanks to all our boosters, and we'll visit with you in a little bit upstairs. Before I turn it over to John, let me have just a few moments to share some thoughts. I first of all want to publicly acknowledge and thank Johnny Jones and his staff for the magnificent job they did this year. In our department meetings, we talk about class, dignity, and style. Johnny Jones is class, dignity, and style. He personifies everything we've tried to do. I also want to acknowledge the young men that performed this season under extreme and adverse conditions. We are very proud that they're wearing our jerseys, and I want to publicly thank the team for a job well done. This has been a long process. There have been many people involved, and when you start mentioning names, you always take the chance of forgetting people. But I think there are names that I need to acknowledge and I need to publicly thank, and I'd like to do that at this time. These aren't in any order. They're just people that advised me throughout this thing, people that I used as consultants, people that assisted me, people that shared thoughts with me and let me share thoughts with them. Ted Anderson, Mike Rose, Rick Spell, Willie Gregory, Dr. Nate Essex, Cato Johnson, Frank Flott, and Fred Smith. I also would like to thank my president, who's sitting next to me and unfortunately is going to be leaving us, but this couldn't have happened again without his support. I'd also like to thank our legal counsel. I know they got tired of hearing from John, they got tired of hearing from me, but both Doris Kirby and Sherry Lippman held up well through all that, and I'd like to thank them. And finally, I'd like to thank the athletic staff, many of them who are over here. They had to bear the brunt of a lot of things that were going on, and I wanted to thank all of you for chipping in and helping out, and that's what makes the Tigers special. As we started this search, I had said all along our goal was very simple. We wanted to be the very best that we could be. We want us to be able to do the things that we all want to do. In order to do that, I think you have to find somebody that has experience. I think you have to find somebody that's enjoyed success. I think you have to find somebody that's knowledgeable and smart. I think we have found that person. I'm going to introduce to you shortly our coach. I want to say to you, because there's been much speculation, we have a 5-year contract. The base package is $550,000. In that is $135,000. That's his base salary. The additional money is for radio, TV, public speaking, apparel. We also have worked it out with John so that he has an opportunity for bonuses, incentives that could total somewhere around $400,000. I also want to thank the many private donors in the community that stepped up to help on this. Had that not happened, we could not have done what we're about to do. And now it's time. It's time to rebound. It's time to move forward. It's time to get excited. With pride and pleasure, the new head basketball coach of the Tigers, Mr. John Calipari.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let me start by introducing my family. My wife, Ellen. Can you stand up, Ellen? My wife, Ellen. My daughter, Erin. Stand up, Erin. My daughter, Megan. And then there's little Bradley down there in his Tiger uniform already. So. I want to start by thanking R.C. Johnson. Through this process, I've grown to trust and have a good relationship with him. I think it's going to be a terrific relationship where we're working together and building something special. The meeting with Dr. Rollins in Atlanta just kind of blew me away, and by the end I was asking him, why don't you stay? Why, I think you have somebody very special here, and I'm very disappointed that he's leaving. I'm happy for him and disappointed for all of us. And I want to thank him for his support through all this and what he's done for this great university. I want to thank Larry Brown. I think Larry Brown felt bad that he walked away at the altar, so he forced me to come down here and take this job. But he's a mentor, a friend, somebody that I've worked for 20 years ago and asked me to join him on the 76ers staff this year. I want to thank the players of the 76ers who I really enjoyed. Bob Markham, who R.C. talked with a lot, who was my boss at the University of Massachusetts. But people asked me this question: why are you so excited about Memphis? Why wouldn't you want this job or that job? Why Memphis? And I'll be honest, it's for all the right reasons. It starts with my family. The NBA existence and a community, a college community. For my family, my wife and I have talked about it. That's what we wanted. And we looked at this environment and said, this is what we want, this kind of environment. The challenge. This is a great challenge. This is not going to be easy. This is not like just let's walk to the Final Four. That's not what happens. This is a challenge. But see, I get excited about those kind of challenges. I went through this at UMass. That was a challenge. The Nets, that was a challenge. This is a different challenge. There are a lot of things here that are already in place. And I'm excited about that. The great tradition of winning with Gene Bartow, who's a good friend, with Dana Kirk, with Larry Finch, who I talked to 5 days ago. And even last night, I'm having dinner in Philadelphia, and someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, I played against Memphis in 1957. And I said, what? Yeah, they beat us in the NIT. I said, who was coaching, Bob Vannetta? He says, yeah, that's who was coaching, Bob Vannetta. So even back then, there was a tradition of winning here, a tradition of great players. And I may leave some guys off, but Penny and David, Vaughn, Lorenzen, Elliott, Cedric, I mean just the latest guys who have played here. But is there a better area in the country for high school players and high school coaches than Memphis? Those are the reasons why I looked at this and said, this is a great situation. I am excited about it, and I want to do this. But on top of that, something just kept telling me this was the right thing to do. I toss and turn. Should I do this? It is the right thing. We were in Atlanta. After I met these two gentlemen to my right, I walked away saying, this is the right thing to do. And it's what I know. I missed this. I missed the kids. I missed the fans. I missed the college environment. How about this? I missed the recruiting. I missed meeting people and being in high school gyms. I missed the friends that you create through recruiting. You don't always get kids, but you meet a lot of people. I missed recruiting a player who didn't really know where he was going when you get him, and 4 years later, a very strong moral compass and a vision of where he wants to go. That's what coaching college basketball is about. It's about teaching life skills. I just want you all to know that my family, my wife, my children, we feel lucky that we have this opportunity. It's not the other way around with us. We feel lucky because of all the things I've just said, that we're going to have an opportunity to get this program to another level, to challenge the players, to get our fan base and expect sellouts and those things. Now let me say a couple things before I open this up for questions. One is about Johnny Jones. I'll tell you what, he did an unbelievable job with the adversity that was thrown at him to keep a team together, to get him to play the way they played, to bring him to fight every night, to compete and expect to win. And he also did a great job in his community, because I've heard it from a lot of people. He impacted a lot of lives in this community and continues to do it. And Johnny and I talked yesterday and talked for about 30 minutes. And I'll do anything I can to help Johnny Jones, because I've known him over the years. We haven't been close friends, but I think the world of him. So how about another hand for Johnny for what he's done for this country? And I just want to, before I answer questions, I just want to close with what I've seen with this basketball team. As much as anything else, I have never seen a team that's had to go through the swirling adversity that's gotten better, that they got better. And as much as Johnny did his job, and he did a great job, you're talking about a team with character. You're talking about a team that understands unity and loyalty. They are loyal to Johnny, and I would expect nothing less from them, and I'm proud of them and how they played and what they did toward the end of the season. I would only say this. Coming in, our job as a staff is to create a love affair with this community, with the high school coaches, with the players, because the cornerstone of this program will be keeping the best players here, keeping them here, but we're also going to recruit nationally, because we want to be a national program. But the cornerstone will be here. Questions?
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we'll open this to questions. Dave Woloshin's got his hand up with WMC Radio.
Welcome to Memphis.
Thank you.
You've talked just now in terms of we and your staff. Have you put one together already, and if so, who are they?
I have some people in mind. I have not put a staff together at this point. There are so many things I've got to do here in the next few days that that'll be the next thing I move on.
The other thing is you talked about the challenge. I know you've been thinking about this at least since Atlanta. What are some of the first things you want to do, and have you evaluated much of any player type at all, and what do you like, what you see?
Well, this team, in my mind, from what I saw toward the end of the year, has a chance to be good. We need to add a little bit. We need to do a few different things, but this team has a chance of being good. How good, it's more of a mental thing. How good do they think they can be? We've got to keep the players that are here, so you almost have to re-recruit. And again, you know, that's all part of when you make a change, and I understand that. But we'll go out this week. I'll probably look at some players. I want to go see the 2 players that have signed in the state tournament on Wednesday, and I'll be bouncing around looking to bring in 1 or 2 other good players if we can do that.
Mr. George Lapidus has his hand up.
How'd you know that? Nothing's a secret in this town. I can't believe it.
What did you tell him? What did you tell him?
That was a confidential meeting. I mean, I just wanted them to get to know me.
And can you clue us in a little bit more on what your first orders of business are besides going to the state tournament and talking to the players, 2 players?
I've got to do some recruiting this week. I can evaluate. First of all, I got to pass the NCAA test, and I got to study. I haven't done that in a while, but I've got to study the book and pass that test. And I'll probably leave town in short order to do some recruiting, evaluating, and I'll do a home visit on the 16th with a player, and probably have some players on campus the next couple weekends.
You said that you would do anything for Johnny Jones. Does this mean you would be interested in talking to him about a position on the staff?
You know what? Johnny and I talked in those terms, but you know, Johnny's comment to me was really simple. He says, you know what? Wouldn't be a good thing for you, and it probably wouldn't be a good thing for me. And one of the things I told Johnny, I said, Johnny, you're a head coach. If that's what you want to do, anybody that's associated with me and myself, and we'll help, you know, whatever you need from us. Again, I just think he's a special guy, and we had a very good conversation.
Mr. David Williams with the Commercial Appeal.
Could you talk about the whole courtship process and maybe how your feelings about the job and the school and town evolved?
Well, initially, RC and I talked, and again, it was more based on our relationship from the Atlantic 10. He was at Temple, and we were beating their butts at UMass. So, so
I'd like to say something.
But we got to know each other, and anytime an athletic director calls you, you talk to them, because whether it's for you or someone you want to help, you always talk and return the call. And you know, the four coaches that coach with me at UMass are all Division I head coaches right now, and I think part of that is you reach out to ADs and let them know your guys are good. And the second conversation we had was a little more in depth, and then, you know, I wanted to meet Dr. Rollins. I just thought it was so important for me to meet the director and find out why he was leaving and what he thought. And like I said, I tried to influence him to stay by the time the meeting ended. So that's about how it progressed.
I think Mr. Zach McMillan with the Commercial Appeal is next, and we'll follow that with Greg Gaston.
Yeah, John, we're here at the Conference USA tournament. What are your thoughts on the conference and its visibility and how that can help build this program and where this program sits?
The conference is outstanding. I mean, I think you're talking about one of the top conferences. You know, you've got Cincinnati as number one. You got DePaul with terrific players. You got Louisville and Coach Crum. I mean, come on. I mean, every year they're going to be there. And then you've got South Florida getting better. You've got Marquette. Tommy Crean is known as a great recruiter, and he's going to get players. You go right up and down the line. I mean, Tulane and you know, St. Louis. I didn't mention them, and they won the whole thing. So you know, it's going to be a fun conference to play in, and every game is a challenge. You know, road games are hard. I just want this road game to be an impossible game. where every game is a sellout, where the people, like I saw yesterday or 2 days ago when I watched a little bit of the game, where people are going crazy and standing up, and when the game ends, they're soaked. They're absolutely, it's like they played the game. And that's when it becomes a building that the other team just says, let's get out of here as quickly as we can.
What's your philosophy going to be on scheduling?
Well, the scheduling, and RC, I hope I'm not talking out of step, but the scheduling will be done out of my office, but in conjunction with obviously our athletic director, who's going to have the final say. But I've done a pretty good job in scheduling. Sometimes I've overscheduled and made it so ridiculous that that it was hard. But if you win all those games, all of a sudden you're pretty highly rated. So the philosophy early on will be, let me evaluate this team, but I will tell you eventually we'll have one of the toughest schedules in America. There won't be a tougher schedule, and I probably will call ESPN and ABC and say, okay, schedule us 3 TV games and try to just get on more and play whoever. And I've had already a bunch of calls for games, you know, matchup games, and but we first got to evaluate where we are as a team, and I hate to throw a schedule at a team that's not ready for it yet. This team, I think, is pretty good, though.
Mr. Greg Gaston.
Coach, 2 things. First of all, your feelings on this arena.
No 60 Minutes interview
No
today.
60-minute interview
Okay.
this time. Your thoughts on the Pyramid Arena and playing here?
Well, when we walked in, I was just blown away. You know, I'd heard about it, and I'd been to Memphis recruiting, but I'd never been here. And, you know, it is a special, it's an NBA arena is what it is. Now, we've got to make it a college environment, and I believe it is. Now, I haven't been in here for a game, but, you know, want the students standing the entire game. They don't sit down unless there's a timeout on the floor. And they're into the game, and now all of a sudden people are saying, please sit down. No, you have to stand up too. Now everybody's into it. That's the environment, and I think it's here. And now it's a big building. It's hard to fill. You've got to have some special things going on, but we'll hopefully in time have the kind of schedule and the kind of team and the kind of environment. I just hope, you know, we've done our job if it gets to a point where if you don't get a season ticket, you don't get in the building. You've got to have a season ticket or you're not welcome. There's just no tickets for you. And so if we can get to that point, then we've done what we're trying to get done.
And what do you believe the toughest transition will be going from the NBA back to college basketball?
The toughest transition, well, you have 82 games versus 30-some games. The greatest thing that I'll tell you will be you get to practice. I mean, in the NBA, you'll have 4 games in 6 nights. And if it's going bad, it's hard to change. It goes bad. And if it's going good, you're on a pretty good run. In college, you have time to prepare. And I've always tried to convince my team, if we have 3 days to prepare for a team, we're in great shape. We're going to do fine. And I'm anxious to get back to that. Now, you know, there's coaching in the NBA. People think you roll out the balls, but there's coaching. And so it's been a great experience for me to even learn more. And again, from a Hall of Famer like Larry Brown, I wish I had this opportunity to work with him before I did the Nets thing.
John, 2 questions. One, you're on live television right now. There are a bunch of people watching. Is there anything more you'd like to say to the people of Memphis and the area?
Just that, you know, my family and I are very excited about this opportunity and feel lucky, really feel lucky. And I'm just, the part about rebuilding, this isn't rebuilding. This is, we want to get in here and really have people excited and bring a community together, create a love affair on the campus for our players and our team, and just get the community understanding that this is their team. And we're going to do the best job we can of representing them in a positive way and have everybody talking about we won, not they. We won again. We're playing great. And have them talking in those terms and try to reach out into this community. And again, we'll, as a staff, we'll be out there as much as humanly possible doing as many things as we can.
Also, 22 years ago, Larry Brown came this close to taking this job.
He did, too.
Yeah.
He was very close.
What did he tell you about it?
He said, take the job. He said, take the job. He looked back and he just said, you know what, that is a basketball community. You have Memphis to recruit from. If you can galvanize the coaches and let the coaches know you're there for them and you'll help their players whether they come to Memphis or not, he said, you know, you have a basis. And We talked. I mean, if this is to be a national program, you have to accept the fact that if we can get a player from California, or we can get a player from New York, or we can get a player from Florida, that's good for our university. And that brings us even closer to being what we're trying to do on that level.
Paul Davis.
Yes, Coach, obviously winning ball games will bring more people into the basketball program, into the pyramid. But are there other things that a head basketball coach in a program like this can do to generate the excitement, to bring interest back into the University of Memphis?
Winning. Winning does that. And the other thing that I would tell you, the style of play, we'll play a pro style up and down the court. I mean, it'll be, if you watched us at UMass, and even with the Nets, I mean, we were a very high-scoring team in the NBA. As a matter of fact, the highest-scoring team in the Eastern Conference when we were going there. And I would say we'll play fast, but our defense is what it's all about. You guard. You don't need to change defenses. You don't need to play zone. You play man-to-man, and you guard. And you're like a glove, and everybody's going crazy because you got 5 stops in a row. They're not even cheering for baskets. They're cheering for stops and rebounds. And if we get to that point, you have a chance to winning every game. And if I do my job, when you look out there, you're going to say, look at these guys. They're swarming. They're diving on the floor. Look at them. They're going crazy. This is great. That's how you win games. And then as you add talent, you have balance on offense where it's not just one guy. It's 5 and 6 guys scoring in double figures. And if we've done our job, that's what you'll be seeing on the floor.
Bill Little.
John, at what point did you give consideration of returning to college? And also, did you consider any other job offer?
Well, last year, I was fired in February, and I got a call from the University of Missouri. And my wife happens to be from Osceola, Missouri, and we were in, I believe, Easter at her family's house. And I talked to them at that point, and obviously I wasn't comfortable with the situation. And my wife looked at me and said, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And so she wanted me to do it, I hate to tell you, but she's excited about being here. She wanted me, this is close to her family here, and that's one of the reasons she wants to do it. But more importantly, I've got a 13-year-old daughter, I've got a 10-year-old daughter, and I'd like to see them through high school before I move. In the pro game, you're usually, if you're 3 years, you've done a heck of a job. If you're 4 years, you're verge of Hall of Fame. If you're 5 years, you're in one place. That's just the way it is. And in coaches, getting fired in the NBA is not like getting fired in college basketball. So, you know, Ellen and I had talked about it at length. And it was time to say, you know what, it's not about money. If I wanted to worry about money, I'd be in the NBA right now. It's about what's right for our family and what's right for my daughters. We had to move once from Massachusetts to the Nets, and I just don't feel comfortable every 3 years moving my family and what that would do to them. Thank you.
I see a hand up here in the back, and I'm sorry, the lights.
Hi, Carrie Anderson with WMC TV.
Thank you.
Just, I don't know how much time you've had to check out the team, just your thoughts on maybe the strengths of the talent level on this team.
Well, and I don't want to miss any names. They've got some players that are my type of players. I mean, that team, Courtney is my type of point guard. He's got some size, and he's unselfish, and he's about the team. He's not about scoring, even though he can score. I talked to Marcus Camby last night. We played the Knicks. Got beat. Talked to Marcus after the game, and I said, I think I'm going to coach another guy like you. And that's Kelly Wise. And I watched Kelly and in a game, I watched a half of the Tennessee game I told you, I think, and I watched a couple other games. I haven't watched every game, but I think he's got a chance of being special. Shannon Foreman is just like Dana Dingle and Dante Bright, the guys I won with at UMass. And also, Chiron is very similar to those kind of players. Shamel I recruited out of high school when I was at UMass, and he was in New York City. And I'm trying to think, Earl, and they've got a good basis of players that you can win with. Marcus Moody is just like the two guards I had.
We'll have much more on this coming up on News Channel 3 at 6 o'clock and again at 10. Glenn, back to you.
Okay, thank you, George. Again, John Calipari, the 16th head coach that Calipari hit on. Brandon Dean can't hit.
Sweet of you.
Is
$20. Next item.
6. More with Calipari, his family, boosters and fans, what they think, along with Tiger players, and also what other coaches around the country are saying about John Calipari becoming the University of Memphis men's basketball coach. Right now, let's return
them to use me.
Calipari comes into a program
for you tonight because the person who's caused all of this excitement is here in the studio with us. Our guest tonight, well, he hardly needs an introduction. It's John Calipari, the new basketball coach at the University of Memphis. I'm going to talk with him, and so can you. If you want to welcome the new coach, you can call in here at 528-WREG. That's 528-9734. Or if you're from outside the local calling area, the toll-free number is 1-800-528-WREG. May have to wait a little bit before we get to you, but we'll try to get to as many of you as possible. But before we start talking with John, let's tip our hats to the Arkansas Razorbacks and to Nolan Richardson for the job they did in the SEC tournament, with Georgia, Kentucky, LSU, and Auburn to win the championship and a berth in the NCAA tournament. Hard to believe, but this is the first time the Razorbacks have ever won the SEC tournament. Didn't even win it the year they won the national championship. And now that they've done it, maybe the folks who've been criticizing Richardson lately will back off. They sure should. And we've seen the real Brandon Dean emerge for Arkansas during the last week or so of the regular season, then in the tournament. They haven't said much about it, but he's been hurt most of the season with a bad ankle. It cost him his explosiveness and really, therefore, his ability to score, too. But you finally saw a healthy Brandon Dean in the SEC tournament. You just saw how really good he is. If he had been healthy all year, the Razorbacks probably wouldn't have had to win the SEC tournament to get into the NCAA. It's nice that both Arkansas and Tennessee are going to be playing close by. The Razorbacks against Miami and Nashville, Tennessee against Louisiana Lafayette. That used to be Southwest Louisiana, that game in Birmingham. And congrats to Ole Miss for getting into the NIT and to the U of M's Lady Tigers for getting into the women's NIT. And with John Calipari sitting here, I want to publicly thank the man who preceded him, Johnny Jones, thanking him for being such a pleasure to work with, for being such a fine person, a first-class gentleman. It's possible Johnny may stay in Memphis because he does have an opportunity in private business, but I hope he stays in coaching because the business really does need more people like him. There's some talk he might end up at McNeese State. Okay, let's focus on the president. It's John Calipari. And, John, I know you've been whirlwind since you've gotten here. I know you're probably tired a little bit.
I'm a little beat up right now, George, a little beat up.
Where have you been today?
Well, I went down to Baton Rouge. I wanted to meet with Courtney and Shannon and met with them, spend a couple hours with their family. The mother was there. She was there, and uncle and aunt. So I met a lot of people and just talked to them about where we were going to try to go with the program.
Well, I want to talk to you about how you think that went. We'll be anxious to hear about that, and we'll do that right after this.
Talk with George. Call 528-WREG. Outside of Memphis, call 1-800-528-WREG.
Okay, John Calipari on his second day as the University of Memphis basketball coach. He must have flown down to Baton Rouge, talked to Shannon Foreman, Courtney Trask. How'd it go? What'd they tell you?
They're really, I tell you, the fans of Memphis basketball should be proud if those are two of your star players, because they were really a pleasure to be around. I was very honest with them. I told them I wanted to coach them. I think I'd do well by them and they'd do well by me, but it wasn't going to be easy. That you have to be totally committed to the schoolwork, totally committed to weight training, totally committed to basketball, individual training. And the hardest thing is to be special. It's very easy to be average, but if you want to be special, it's the hardest thing you can do. And I said, playing for me is not easy. I just want to be honest. But I think we parted ways with a good feeling about each other.
Yeah, I asked you what you said to them. What did they say to you?
Well, they asked some questions, and they were very good questions. You know, a lot how we would play, and you know, what I would expect of them, and asked me about practice. And I said, very simple. Practice will be much, much harder than games. You'll be excited about playing basketball games. I told them we don't practice long. A couple hours. I'm not a 3-hour guy. It's usually 2 hours, and as the season goes on, it's shorter. But they're hard, and I didn't want to sugarcoat anything. I wanted them to know exactly how it would be, and I think these first 3-4 weeks are really going to set the tone of how we'll do business and who really wants to be a part of what we're doing.
I'll ask you what they ask you. How are you going to play?
Well, you know, part of it's going to be you have to play to the talent that you have and the style, but the staples are always going to be defense. You guard, you put pressure on the ball, you swarm, you dive on the floor, you rebound together, you do it as a unit. You press at times. We'll start every game pressing. How much we press depends on the opponent. And offensively, we play fast. You're just going to try to play a pro-style offense, but with balance. My teams historically at UMass and in the NBA, 5 guys scored in double figures on almost all the teams that were good from my 3rd year on at UMass and even my 2 teams in New Jersey. And if you can get 6 guys scoring in double figures and have that kind of balance, you really, really win a lot of games.
We talked about this a little yesterday, but I know you watched Memphis play at least one game on television and part of another. What did you think?
Well, the game I saw late in the season, I'll say it again, I was amazed at how a team could stay together with all the adversity that swirled from the beginning of the season till the end of the season and really get better. Normally a team like that is just going to fold, and then they'll blame it on the adversity. This team showed character. They showed a sense of pride, and I think everybody was really pleased with the way they finished, and it left a good taste in everybody's mouths. Now we got to take it to the next level.
Now, John, I think I told you that you are the 11th coach yesterday that I've seen introduced.
That means you're getting old.
And I don't like that. I got to tell you that. I know it means I'm getting old, but I have never, in all these years, and this goes back to the early 50s, seen the kind of excitement over the naming of a coach in any sport at this university than yesterday.
Well, you know, I'm flattered to hear you say that, but you have had some great coaches here. And then I told this story. I'm in Philadelphia, and a gentleman tapped me on the shoulder and said, Memphis beat us in 1957. And I said, well, who'd you play for? He said, St. Bonaventure. There was a tip-in, and I said, was Bob Vanetta coaching that team? And he said, yes. So starting there and moving to obviously Gene Bartow and Dana Kirk taking him to Final Fours, and Larry Finch winning 20 games a year. I mean, there have been great coaches here, and so I'm flattered to just be here. And believe me, I said it last night and I'll say it again, we feel that we're lucky as a family to have this opportunity to coach in a program that has tradition, in a city that cares about its basketball, that has high school players and coaches that you could help build your program around.
And I know that you have been busy working the phones with high school coaches. I know yesterday you said you called 30 of them, left 15 messages. You probably called more today.
Well, I tried to finish up the home calls. That, you know, there's some coaches I didn't have their home phones, but you know, I probably made about 40 calls, and it was amazing how positive the coaches are. Some of them would say, this isn't John Calipari, who is this? You're pulling my leg. But, you know, they're positive about Memphis basketball. And one of the things I said to all the coaches, it's about helping each other. I said, you may have a player that's not Division I, and maybe he's Division II. Well, I can help you. If you need my help, we can help place him. Or he's a junior college player. Well, you know, I can help you. I think our staff should be a resource for every high school coach in this city. To help place kids, to help work with kids, maybe to just talk to their kids if they're moving off the target, off track. I'd like to get them involved in our practice facility where they see it and where they can use it at times, and just where we work together to help one another. And this is all about the kids. That's what it's about. And if I can help someone, even if he doesn't come to Memphis, get into school and better himself, then I'm going to feel good about it, and our staff will feel very good about it.
I know you have got to have been knocked over by the facilities you've seen here.
I was surprised, but I was just as surprised at the school itself.
At the campus?
Yes, I had never been on the campus. And one of the reasons I said I have to come down here and see what I'm getting into before I make any kind of decision. What I hope we can do as a basketball program is be the front porch, be kind of a lightning rod so people can find out about the University of Memphis. When I heard they have the highest SAT, ACT scores for incoming freshmen of any public institution in the state of Tennessee, that says something. Well, more people will know it if we're in the NCAA tournament because you can talk about it. More people know about the great institution that we represent if we do better, and that's what we should do as a basketball program. We're a small part of a great place and a small part of a great institution.
John, you are obviously going to be talked to by a number of people about a job. Why did you settle on this one so quickly?
Oh, I didn't settle on it so quickly. Now, I mean, I tossed
well,
and
I know
turned.
talk started maybe in December or January.
Well, and it wasn't, initially I wasn't sure the talk was about me. It might have been about, you know, who else do you think would be interested. But I will tell you this. There was something that kept telling me this was right. And there's a lot of times you do things in life that it's a gut feeling. And I had that same gut feeling when I took UMass. And you have to understand, UMass was 295 in the 1980s ranked. There were only 300 schools, George. We were 295. But something told me, it's in the Atlantic 10. Temple was #1 in the country. That meant someone else from the league could be #1 in the country. They went as high as the Elite 8. Maybe someone couldn't get to the Final Four, but you could do it from the Atlantic 10. And I just said, you know what? It's a good place to start. I left the Big East program, made as much money as an assistant as I made as the head coach at UMass. So it wasn't about that, but it just felt right. And it was right. And I just feel good, and I felt good. And the more I met people and the more comfortable I became with R.C. Johnson, and I just said, this is it. This is what I want to do.
What kind of a coach can people expect to see on the sidelines at games?
Well, hopefully I'm a little more mature than when I took over the UMass program. I was 28 years old. At this point, after what I've been through, sometimes I feel about 58 right now. But I, you know, hopefully more mature, a better coach than I was back then. I've been through a lot in coaching in the NBA and learned a lot. And just one thing I'll tell you, George, I'm an excitable guy. That's the Italian in me. I'm one of those guys that the players will know where I stand. I'm not afraid to hug the guys, tell them I love them. I'm not afraid to tell them they're wrong. I'm not going to be afraid to tell them no. There'll be no question where the direction is for the players. Here are the lines, guys. Let's just run right down them. This is what we're going to do. And I'll just try to inspire them to reach new heights and believe in destiny and what we're trying to do. And hopefully we'll get out there and get some good players to continue what we need to do here.
Well, if I hear you right, that means there's no question who's going to be the boss.
Without saying it that way.
You want to take a few phone calls when we come back and talk to some of our viewers? We'll do that in just a minute. We'll be right back.
Go inside on the next Inside Edition, a real-life view.
Welcome back to Sports Time. Here's George Lapidus.
Well, I do want to tell all of you, our viewers, that because John Calipari is with us tonight, we're probably going to run over a little bit. Joy Lee McNellis' show is due to start in about 10 minutes, but we'll, with Joy, I don't mind. I don't think she'll mind letting us run over just a little bit. We're going to go to a few phone calls, if that's okay with you, John. Randall, you're on with John Calipari. Go ahead. Speak to us, Randall.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick how very, very happy I am to have you as our head coach. I've been a Tiger fan since I've been old enough to know what college sports was. I've never been this excited about a coach, and I thought you were a class act at UMass. And when I first heard the rumor of your name that we may get you as coach, I really kept telling myself it'll never happen, but it has now, and I think you'll do a great job.
John?
Well, Randall, I appreciate that, and I hope you're one of the people and fans at our games that comes and gets into it, stands every game, sweats as much as the players. You sound like you're excited, so we need you at the game really making it happen. And I think our fan base is important, and I hope to see you at the games.
We go to Craig, and I want to tell our viewers now to be sure you turn off your televisions or turn the volume all the way down while you're talking to us. Craig, you're on. Go ahead.
Let me be the 10,000th person to welcome you and thank you for coming. And my question is, I have a couple. One is about recruiting. I was wondering if you started and if any of the rumors are true about some of the good players who you might be recruiting. And I was wondering if you scouted out any of the fine barbecue or Italian restaurants in the city.
Well, let me interrupt. John cannot mention any high school players by name. Right. That's against the rules. But I guarantee you he's found some barbecue places.
Well, yeah, I've had 2 barbecue dinners. I was at the Rendezvous and at Corky's tonight. So I was at Rendezvous yesterday and Corky's tonight. So you know that. My problem is I love barbecue so much. My wife thinks I'm going to be about 400 pounds, so I got to be careful. But I can't talk in any kind of depth about recruiting. But obviously, we're getting after recruiting. We're going to do some things to try to get some kids in. But at this late a date, it's going to be hard. We're going to try to fill in with what we have. I'm going to go to the state tournament Wednesday and see a couple of the players that we've signed from Raleigh, Egypt, and hopefully have a better idea of where they are.
John, I'm frankly a little flabbergasted that you and I have never met, although I know your former boss at Larry Brown extremely well. But you are known, according to people who know you, as a very intense, almost ferocious recruiter. Is that right? Would that be fair?
I've always said this. I think I'm overrated as a recruiter, and I've said that over and over. I think what I like to be known as is a coach that inspires players and gets them to reach beyond what people believe they can be. And we only recruited one McDonald's All-American at UMass, only one. And that wasn't Marcus Camby, he wasn't. Lou Rowe wasn't, it was Dante Bright. And so we recruited players, and they got better, and they improved, and they played fierce basketball, and they played with reckless abandon, and they dove on the floor. Those are the kind of guys we want here. Hopefully we can get guys that are McDonald's All-Americans that will play that way.
We go back to the phones, and we go to Al. Al, you go to Anthony. Anthony, you're on with John Calipari. Go ahead.
Hi, Coach. How you doing?
Good, Anthony. How are you?
All right. I just want to say welcome to Memphis, you and your family. And I was going to ask, are you going to schedule UMass as part of the upcoming schedule?
Anthony, you got to turn your television down. And we're going to tell all of our viewers one more time, if you don't turn your TV down, we're going to have to cut you off because we get all that kind of feedback. Mark, you're on. Go ahead. Mark?
Hello.
Go ahead.
My name is Tarek.
All right, go ahead.
All right. I've been a Memphis State fan since I was 13 years old, and I'm 15 years old right now. And I wasn't sure about you coming to be our coach, because I got so proud of Johnny Jones because I've been keeping up Memphis basketball all my life. But just to let you know that I'm proud of you, and I will be looking up to you, and I hope that you take us to the promised land, and I will be praying for you as well.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I hope to see you at some games. Come over and enjoy the games.
John, you talked at your press conference yesterday about filling the pyramid. How are you going to do that? Win?
Winning does it, but also playing an exciting brand of ball where people want to be a part of it. I think the whole point of this is you make it so that people want to be seen at the games. They want to be there. They know it's the thing to do. And early on, I said it, I'm a day-to-day guy. I'm a brick-by-brick guy. And when you do it that way, brick by brick by brick, year by year, when you get it to where you want it, it stays there for a long time. It's not up and next year you lose. And so what I'm saying to all our fans is when you come in and watch us play, and they play hard, and they do the things you want them to do, each year we're going to get better, and the players are going to realize what we're trying to do more and more. We're going to get better players each year also. We'll get there and stay there. But right now, it's about winning as many as you can. It's about fans getting excited about the direction and making it a hot ticket where you have to buy a season ticket to get in. And people will say to me, you're crazy, that'll never happen. I've been told that a few other times, and I just think when you make it that kind of game where you got to buy those season tickets to get them, if you want the best seats, you got to get them early, and that's what we're striving for.
Eddie Sutton has always told me that he thinks that this should be one of the top 10 coaching jobs in America.
Well,
Do you agree with that?
He can say that from Stillwater, right? And
he said it in Fayetteville, he said it in Lexington, and he said it in Stillwater.
Coach Sutton is a good friend, and you know, I believe it or I wouldn't be here.
So what's next on your agenda?
Well, I've got to do some recruiting. I've got to get out and do some evaluating. I've got to get to the state tournament on Wednesday and start some home visits on the 16th when we're allowed to be in homes and do some face-to-face recruiting. Try to get some players to come back on campus in the next couple weeks and see if we can nail down 1 or 2 players. We don't have many scholarships, so it's not like I can go out and sign 5 guys right now.
Assistant coaches?
That'll, over a period of time, I'll fill in the staff.
Do you have any timetable on that? Or?
No.
Okay, now, I do know that you've looked at the facilities, and I know we've talked about you feel like you need a little more equipment around
Well,
there.
yeah, what we need to do, and we were talking off camera, and you said, you know what, well, we've got an unbelievable weight room area, but we don't have the equipment in there yet. And you want
to take this time to ask some people to
donate?
No,
you know what,
okay.
if anybody wants to step up, fine, but we've got to get the equipment right. We've got to get the work areas for them academically right. I'd like to do things near our office where we can keep a hand on them. The biggest thing I would tell you is that as a coach, if you're involved, they know it's important. If you stay away from it, then they think it's not important to you, then it's not important to them. And that's why I like them studying where I am, where they see me working in the office at 8 o'clock and I'm watching, hey, you did good on your math test yesterday. How you do? They know it's important that I know what they're doing, then they do better. In the weight room, you want it to be so they want to live in it. So you need the best equipment. You need everything right so that they want to be there, and then you've got to be there with them. And if you're there, they'll know it's important. If you're not there, weight training's not important to him, or he'd be here.
Well, I know a guy in Memphis who happens to be a big University of Memphis fan, who also owns his business is a weight equipment store,
Wow.
home gymnasiums, and all that kind of stuff.
We're going to have to talk to him.
I think I can put you in contact with him. Before we let you go, tell us about how involved you're going to be in the community.
Well, the biggest thing, my job here is to be involved with those 12 players I'm coaching more than anything else. But you can't get it done in this community or any other if you're not reaching out into the community, to the high schools, to the junior high schools, and all the groups in the city that want you to come in and do things. So I'm going to do as much as I can. Until the 22nd, I'm not going to be available. You caught me because I got off a plane and I had an hour or two before I go back to my apartment. I said hotel. But I have no time between then and the 22nd. After that, I'm going to do as much as I can, spend as much time as I can in the community. We want our university and our basketball program to reach out, and we're here for the people of Memphis.
I'll let you have one before we go. One other message do you have for the whole area that's watching? You got people in Arkansas watching, Mississippi watching, all up in West Tennessee, even in the Missouri Boot Heel and Western Kentucky. One message for them.
Well, just that, I hope as they watch us build this program, they're all proud of the type of players we have, the type of basketball we have. When we were at UMass, and what I want is the same thing where people say, now, I like how that team plays ball. They play hard. They play together. There's no messing around. Their coach makes them do it the right way. They play basketball with synergy the way it should be played. And that's all we want here is that people come and enjoy the game, enjoy the way it's played, and then enjoy the winning.
Well, John, welcome to Memphis.
Thanks,
good luck,
George.
Good luck to you, and let's have some
Thanks.
fun. John Calipari, we thank him for taking time because it has really been hectic for him these last 2 days. We're going to come back and talk some high school basketball right after this.